A method of solving a quadratic equation is what we call the square root property. So the way we solve for our quadratic equation using the square root property is we need to isolate the x. So in this example, I have 4x squared plus 1 is equal to 7. So everything we move to the right side, leaving the x isolated on the left side. So here the first thing, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. So that gives you 4x squared is equal to 6. Divide both sides by 4. So that gives you x squared is equal to 6 over 4. Now to get rid of this power 2, we need to square root both sides. And that's what the square root property tells you. We square root both sides. And now we have this goes away with this, leaving you with one x value. Now remember, the square root gives you a positive and a negative value. So now here, we're going to use the square root property where it says that if I have a rational function that is being squared, I can square root the numerator and square root the denominator separately. So we will be using this property to separate our square root. So here we have the square root of 6 over the square root of 4. Now the square root of 6 cannot be reduced any further, so we leave it as it is. However, we know that the square root of 4 gives you 2. So here we would have 6 over 2. And here, this is my solution. But now here, we're going to separate it into writing two x-intercepts. So the first x-intercept is the positive square root of 6 over 2. And the second x-intercept is the negative square root of 6 over 2. Now we're given here another quadratic equation, and we will also be using the square root property to solve for our x. Now notice right here, my x is to the power of 1. However, this x is within the parentheses, and where the parentheses is being squared. So instead of me expanding this factor, I'm just going to work with what I have and leaving the factor as it is. So that saves me a step. So here my job is to isolate x. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 3 by dividing both sides by 3. So then here I would have x minus 4 squared is equal to 5. Now I need to get rid of this power of 2. In order for me to get rid of it, I'm going to square both sides. So square rooting both sides gets rid of this power of 2, because remember, a square root, whenever you have two terms that are identical, they come out as 1. So here, if we want to look at it this way, I know that I have x minus 4, x minus 4. So now these two come out as 1, x minus 4. And now this square root of 5 is plus or minus square root of 5. So now the next step is adding 4 to both sides. So here I would have my x term to be 4 plus or minus square root of 5. I can separate these to be as x equals 4 plus square root of 5, or x is equal, well not or, and x is equal to 4 minus square root of 5. Now here you can also write it in another form as plus or minus square root of 5 plus 4. It doesn't matter, as long as you pay attention, you do not put that plus 4 underneath the square root, because that is not valid.